Welcome to the Blue White Tailgate. I'm Trey Bauer, Steve Jones, Todd Sadowski. We're entering Big Ten play. Penn State 3-0, 4 in the country. What do you think?
All right, well, look, the next non-conference opponent they'll face is in a bowl game. Bring on the Big Ten.
25th season of Big Ten football for the Nittany Lions. The Blue White Tailgate is next. And we welcome everyone to Blue White Tailgate. No need for introductions. Check mark. Trey took care of that one. Well done.
I can do things.
Yeah. You can do things.
I can
Look
do
at
things.
you.
Smooth.
You're just getting things done.
I am.
And now it's conference play. Something you know nothing about.
No, I don't. We were an independent when I played, and we kind of like played whoever we wanted to play, and obviously we kind of took them to the woodshed. So I don't know. Big Ten play. Here we go.
There we go. But Todd, I mean, what do you think they got out of the non-conference to get to this point?
Well, we learned that they can certainly beat up on the teams they're supposed to beat up on. We also learned they can spread the wealth. 8 different guys scored touchdowns against Georgia State. And what I like is that they continue to count by sevens. Yeah. By sevens, not by threes. They're getting the ball in the end zone.
And that brings us to our Momentum Moment, brought to you by Dr. Sorbera. And the Momentum Moment, Sorbera weight loss system, happens to be in the first quarter. Saquon Barkley. Exactly how fair is it to put him in the open field against somebody, Trey?
Not very fair at all. I mean, every time he gets the ball, if he's past the line of scrimmage, I think he's going to take it to the house. He's just powerful and strong and so athletic. He's the best player in the country, in my opinion.
That's Sullivan, the corner, who's a good corner, by the way. He faked him, Todd.
Yeah, he did the hesitation move. And then there was another guy that had the angle on him, and it still wasn't good enough. He showed the speed after he showed the agility and showed why he is a top Heisman candidate.
I'll tell you, but there's one other moment that is not going to make a highlight tape. Penn State was in the end zone, and McSorley had to make a throw out of there and did. And he picked up the blitz. It was Barkley that picked up the blitz and allowed the play to happen. That's the maturity and maturation of a running back right there. All right, time now for our pre-game update from PSECU. Allie is at the update desk.
Hey guys, I'm Allison Luthman with this PSECU pregame update. 56 points on Saturday made Penn State the 5th Big Ten team to score at least 30 points in 10 consecutive games. This also serves as the 3rd longest active 30-point streak in FBS. Saturday also brought the first career touchdown for quarterback Tommy Stevens while he was lined up as a running back. He also threw his first career touchdown pass in the 3rd quarter. This was a 35-yard pass to Saeed Blacknell, and this also served as Blacknell's first catch of the season. Stevens is the first Nittany Lion to have a touchdown pass and reception in the same game since 2015. I'm Allison Luthman, and that's this week's PSECU pregame update.
It was interesting because you look at the touchdown pass that Stevens threw. Was he ever tagged and just got up?
Yeah.
It's your kind of guy, Trey.
Exactly. He should be a defensive guy, not a quarterback. Quarterbacks are soft anyway.
Well, speaking of soft, you can't be soft when you play Iowa. There's no question about it. And Brandon Smith, the linebacker, knows each week's going to be a grind starting with Kinnick Stadium.
They're a little better teams and bigger, faster, stronger. So, you know, we know we gotta step it up and keep getting better each week. The competition gets better because people have had more time to play, more experience. So, you know, we really respect Iowa. They're going to be a challenge. But, you know, challenge that we're ready to face and we're looking forward to.
James Franklin has talked openly about, look, winning a Big Ten championship is important. I think they also know that's part of the key road of getting to the college football playoff. Do you see a difference in intensity in Big Ten games, Todd, based on your experience?
Well, no doubt, and this is one of the years where the conference schedule sets up where they're on the road 5 times. So it's not easy to win on the road. They have to do it 5 times, and it starts at Kinnick Stadium. I don't take a lot of stock in overall records from former teams because these are new players. You don't know how they're going to react in those situations. But you also don't ignore trends. And they're 1-4 at Kinnick since 2001. And what that tells me is that Iowa does a great job of defending their home turf. It's just not easy to go in there and win.
Yeah, it's going to be a stripe out in there. They're going to have some fun with it. It's going to be hot, too. It's going to be around 88, 90 degrees at kickoff time, which is going to be 6:30 out there. There's another part to this, too, though, and that's the series you just mentioned. So let's take a look at the series between the two teams. Penn State, though, interesting, has won the last 3 games in the series, but they haven't played a game out there since 2012.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way I would think about it is that, when they had won, I guess, 4 in a row in the early 2000s, that was really where Penn State was struggling with our recruiting. And, we were not a very good football program during those 3 or 4 years, and I think Iowa took advantage of that.
Yeah, they did.
But in 2012, they did go and they won that game. And it was funny because I pulled up some old video from that. And the first 2 plays were Matt McGloin throwing a touchdown pass to Jesse James and then to Allen Robinson. So when you have superior talent and good skills, NFL caliber skills, you can get the job done.
You would be amazed how much better a coach you become with talent. Talent seems to be a great difference maker when it's all said and done. But they do present a challenge, especially in the trenches, though. In the trenches, they've always been tough, and especially with the linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, I was always very, very solid. It's kind of what you think about, like the Midwest and guys living on farms and all this kind of whatever. Hunky-dory stuff. I don't know. To me, it's like they're very solid offensively on the line and defensively. I think the best part of their team is the linebackers. I mean, that's not saying just because I was a linebacker, but I really think that they're the key to the unit.
Well, James Franklin has a lot of respect for how Iowa approaches the game.
You're talking about a blue-collar team that takes a lot of pride in their fundamentals and their techniques and being sound and how hard they play. Really, in some ways, similar to our history and our traditions.
I think that sums it up right there. That's what Iowa is, Todd. They play hard.
Absolutely. And what makes them dangerous when they're really, really good is they have a smart, efficient quarterback. We're going to see about that with Nate Stanley.
Yeah, we'll talk about Nate Stanley a little bit later in the show. Up next, we'll take a look at the Penn State offense, including that tough quarterback, as we continue with Blue White Tailgate after this. What you didn't see in those highlights, the same guy scoring twice. 8 different guys scored touchdowns in the game. Back to your point, Todd, about them spreading the ball out.
Yeah, and I think the end result was expected, to score that many points. But maybe how they got there was a little unexpected to see Tommy Stevens catch the first one. And, they didn't really knock Georgia State off the ball with straight ahead running. They, a lot of chunk plays, which you would expect, a lot of big plays. But just the end result expected. How they got there, maybe a little bit unexpected.
It's interesting, though, is I thought here's where smarts comes into play. Early on, Joe Moorhead figured out, okay, they're going to play 3-4, stack the box, so he started throwing on first down.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's one of the better offensive coordinators in the country. He's got all the weapons in his, toolbox, and I think I was going to have a lot of problem with our athletic ability on the offensive side of the ball.
Family Clothesline Offensive Player of the Week. Let's see. Well, let's go with Barkley. What do you think? I mean, Barkley's kind of a good choice. So we'll go with him as the Family Clothesline Offensive Player of the Week. But it was done in the pass game. His first career 100-yard receiving game. He had 142 yards receiving. Second highest ever for a running back in a game at Penn State. I mean, really remarkable.
They're going to continue to find ways to give him the ball, whether it's kickoff returning, whether it's throwing it out of the backfield, and you're going to get a mismatch every single time that you can get him one-on-one with somebody out of the backfield. And I thought it was interesting. One of his best runs came at the end of the half when they started to go to the 2-minute drill. Just hand it off. There you go, 30 yards straight up the middle. So you can't really ever relax with Saquon Barkley unless you see him on the sidelines taking a water break.
Yeah, power and speed. I mean, that is a tough man to tackle. I mean, you look how big, for example. I mean, the strength he has in his legs. You've been at practice. You've seen.
Oh no, he's a complete freak of nature. I mean, you talk about a guy who's very, very compact. He's athletic, strong. Probably pound for pound, obviously the strongest guy on the team. And he's got the total package.
Joel Comfort, drive of the game. It turns out to be the opening scoring drive of the game for Penn State. They went 8 plays, 62 yards for our Joel Comfort drive of the game. And again, the ability opening up the offense. You get the Tompkins early, you just start spreading the ball around, Todd.
Well, Trey's had a slow start against Pitt, and that was not the case against Georgia State. He was 18 of 23 for 309 yards, and he was right on target right away. Look, a simple little pass like that is right between the 2 and the 6, and you're hitting his receivers in stride.
Yeah, and allows them to get the yards after the catch that we talk about. And, and then the Tommy Stevens package comes into play at the end of this drive right here. And, I mean, that's the key right there. Stevens gives them some versatility, and if you're in a practice this week at Iowa, you now have to practice against that because you actually, that's the first time they used it was the Iowa game last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a threat. I mean, the guy's athletic. He's strong. He can throw the ball. I mean, he's a real weapon, and, it's just nice to see that James and Joe Moorhead, using him in the offense.
I like when he lowers his head and just continues to bowl right over defenders. I mean, It's not just something he wants to go around you. Tommy Stevens wants to go over you and can do it.
This week they'll get Brendan Mann back at right tackle, which means Gonzalez can go back to his at right guard. That means Gonzalez can go back to his left guard. These are the guys that have been playing together the entire time. Against that Iowa defensive front, how much of a difference is having Mann back?
I think it's a huge advantage. I mean, the guy is, he's got 30-something, 40 starts already in his career. I mean, he's been kind of battling injuries throughout his career, but, he's a veteran guy. He's a fifth-year senior guy. It's going to be a hostile environment, night game. It's really important, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and then, by the way, in Iowa, like last year, they played Michigan in a night game there. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough environment in there, and they won that game. Barkley is going when he's in space. What do they need to do, Todd, to get him going in the running game?
Well, to have Mann back is a big deal because you want that cohesiveness in your offensive line.
Yeah.
But, look, you get first down passes, you get yourself to 2nd and 6, 2nd and 4. I think what Trace McSorley is going to do will help Saquon Barkley. If he's going to prove to be connecting on 1st and 2nd down and get them in those advantageous down and distance situations, it's going to open it up for Saquon Barkley. But we all know he just needs a little bit of room. So whatever they can give him, and get him going quickly through the line is going to help.
We've referenced a couple of times in the show, including Allison Luthman earlier, about the Tommy Stevens package of plays that happen to be in there. And for James Franklin, that gives them a lot of options.
It allows us to get another guy involved in our game plan. It allows us to get, Tommy game experience and get him on the field, which is always a challenging thing to do at the quarterback position. How do you get guys meaningful reps without, throwing off the flow of your offense? It puts another weapon on the field. He's a big, strong, fast guy, and then obviously, they have to be concerned about him throwing the ball as well.
And then there's the other part, the Iowa secondary. They lost Brandon Snyder to an ACL during the course of the spring. Then Jake Gravas was the starter, made a couple of big mistakes against North Texas. He's going to be replaced. Amani Hooker's now going to start at safety, and Gravas is now backing up Miles Taylor. That could be another area of advantage for Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any doubt in my mind that Penn State athletically, offensively, is going to really take it to Iowa. I mean, I don't think that they have the speed. I don't think they have the athletes. I mean, it's one thing if you're trying to go 11 on 11 and it's old school football, Big Ten, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but you're throwing the ball around. I mean, we have too many weapons for them, Todd.
This is not just an Iowa thing. This is a rest of the season thing for the wide receivers to step up and somebody start to make an impact, especially downfield, because you got to go open it up not only for Saquon Barkley, Tommy Steve, but for Mike Gesicki as well. It's going to be an ongoing theme to see what happens with the wide receivers and who Trey starts to hone in on downfield.
All right, let's take a look at the third down numbers. This is going to be critical in this game. Iowa wants to play keep away. And that means Penn State has to convert on third down. And you can see where Penn State is. They're 92nd in the country in this area. And look at Iowa defensively, really good on third down. Now, Penn State's also great on 1st and 2nd down, but still, third down has to be better.
No, it absolutely has to be better. And, we kind of struggled with that last year. I think we're still struggling with that. I think that, we get a tendency to have people thinking about us having big plays, and then the third down really doesn't mean that much. But when you're in a tight ball game, third down conversions are huge.
Hawkeyes live on that third down efficiency, both offensively and defensively. When they are good, they are excellent in that category.
And needless to say, if they can have some really good third down defensive efficiency, that crowd will go crazy every time because it's the Penn State offense. Coming up, we'll take a look at the Nittany Lion defense as they prepare for Iowa and the Big Ten openers. We continue with Blue White Tailgate after this. It's interesting. They've given up some yards, but they don't give up points. They've given up 1 touchdown the entire season so far. What do you think of the defense?
Hard to argue with 2 goose eggs putting up on the board in the first 3 games. As you mentioned, they've bent, but they have not broken. And for a defense, I mean, isn't that the goal, to keep them out of the end zone, Trey? Isn't that what you're supposed to do, right?
Correct. But, we're not in Kansas anymore, okay? So we're not playing Georgia State. We're not playing a really, really horrific Pitt team, which I love to say that, a terrible Pitt team, and Akron. Okay, you're playing Iowa. It's a different story. We're going to find out how good we are on defense on Saturday night, Steve.
You're playing to the crowd. Look, Todd, he plays to the crowd. It's like being at the York County Fair. He's playing to the crowd. All right, our family clothesline defensive player of the week is outside linebacker Manny Bowen. He ends up being our defensive player of the game, presented by the family clothesline. It's a guy that they need to really step up game in and game out, Trey.
Yeah, I think he's getting more and more experience. He's getting more confident with the more experience he has. He played a lot of football last year. This year I think he's playing well. Again, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do against a big physical offensive line, and Iowa's got a couple of really good running backs.
Yeah, what do you need from linebacker play? How much better does the linebacker play have to be now once they're in conference?
Well, it has to be much better. I mean, they're not playing Georgia State. I mean, they're playing Iowa. They're playing Michigan. They're playing Ohio State. I mean, it would be great if we played like, Akron every single week, but that's not the case, Todd. I mean, they got to bring their feet and they got to be physical.
Well, it's one of the things we discussed in previous shows is too many tackles are being made by the secondary. So it's great to see a linebacker step up and get player of the game. And Manny Bowen, as you mentioned, he was thrown into it last year to get that experience, and he's got all the physical tools. So it's great to see him step up and have a good game.
It's also in some ways an old-fashioned kind of challenge because, look, when you played, a lot of people played pro-style offenses. I mean, there were some option teams that you played along the way. What does it take to read keys, and how important are keys to taking you to the ball?
Well, I mean, you have to be able to. I mean, it's interesting. People used to think, oh, the big dumb football player. I mean, guys are very, very intelligent. To be able to play this game, to play the game well. I mean, the fact is that the more experience that you get in a game situation, not just against the scout team, is important. And we've got a lot of guys that played a lot of football. But I do expect the linebackers to play better this week.
And they're going to have to, because in Iowa's pass game, they're very much a station-to-station pass game with the wideouts and the tight ends. They only average 4.4 yards after the catch for the season. But the running backs don't. So, Todd, that brings in linebacking play because they want to throw that wheel route to Wadley, for example.
It brings in the thinking part of the game, doesn't it? The execution part of it has always been important for the Hawkeyes, whether it's defense or offense. And then it's a matter of, if you're in the right spot, who can make the play. So you want to obviously keep up with them from an execution standpoint, guys, but then you want to outclass them from a talent perspective.
You also have to play better down and distance football because you're looking at Penn State's third down defensive conversion. They're 55th in the country right now in that area. And Brandon Smith says, look, got to make third down manageable on defense by taking care of first and second down.
We've had a lot of third and mediums, third and shorts. Putting ourselves in a better situation to make them be, one-dimensional, either a passing or running situation. And, a lot of times in that third and medium, it's hard to know which one they're going to do. So we've been leaving that option open too much for offenses. And just little things that we can work on, we can get better on, just, a little more accountability, a little more sound defense.
And part of that is down and distance football right there. So, Trey, take us into the mind of a linebacker. Understanding down and distance and how you need to play that.
Well, I mean, obviously you have to know the other team's strengths and weaknesses, right? So, I mean, they do a lot of film work during the week as far as like looking at tendencies when they have different personnel packages in there. Obviously, where you line up, I mean, your distance from the line of scrimmage, you obviously want to be a little bit deeper, in passing situations. Yeah. And again, you're not going to get the same look from the scout team as you are playing with, against a Division I player, Todd.
It all leads to the secondary as well when you get those down and distance situations, when you've got a 3rd and 3, a 3rd and 4. And that leads me to talk about Iowa's quarterback, Nate Stanley. I mean, there were open receivers against Georgia State. I mean, Georgia State had guys open, but their quarterback couldn't hit them. Nate Stanley's pretty accurate. He's 51 of 83. Yeah. And if he hits these guys in these short situations and keeps those chains moving, that's just going to play right into Iowa's hands.
He's not a big mistake guy. He's only thrown 1 interception so far this year. He's thrown 10 touchdown passes. He's played well. I'll say this, Kirk Ferentz did have one of the better lines of the week. he was asked in his press conference, who's impersonating Barkley and have they done a great job? And he said, look, if he's done a great job, he'd be starting.
We don't have that guy on the scout team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you know. Coming up, we go into the film room with Jay Paterno as we continue after this.
We are back on the Blue White Tailgate, and we are in the film room with Jay Paterno, brought to you by Beer Belly's Beverage. And Jay, it's the 25th year of Big Ten football for Penn State. Your recollections when that big decision was made for the Nittany Lions and what that's meant to their program?
I was actually a senior on the team in 1989 when they had the press conference, and I was shocked. But it's been a great thing with some real good rivalries starting to build with Ohio State and Michigan and Wisconsin and play teams like that. So it's been a lot of good memories, but some not so good ones. But hopefully this Saturday we get some good ones.
Yeah, a lot of challenges over the years with some of the places you got to go to. And Kinnick Stadium is not an easy place to play. They start their 9-game schedule with the Iowa Hawkeyes. What do we see from their defense?
Defense, very basic. You know, one of the things that they do, not going to fool you. They're not going to show you a lot of different looks. But when you take a look at them, we'll take a look at their base defense again, or we'll take a look at what they've done. This game's going to come down to keep away. Third downs, they're very good on offense. On defense, they're very good at keeping people from making first downs. Penn State's got to improve. You look at those ranks. The other thing is time of possession. They're going to try and hold the ball. When you got an offense like Penn State has that wants to score, it can be very frustrating when you're standing there for 5 and 6 minutes, as we saw against Pitt. A little bit of pressing. So hopefully that Penn State will be able to make their third downs and get off the field on defense. Now, Iowa's defense, very basic. They're going to start out with basically a two-deep look on this side, and then they're going to read on the front side with their corner and their safety. So these guys get involved. He gets involved in the run game. They're going to play a linebacker on first and second down, not a nickel. So it's going to make some of those throws they want to make out to Barkley a little tougher because you're blocking. But it's going to give you some corner routes. Look for Gesicki to get involved back here, and they're going to give it a flat. So let's take a look at this video here. Here's a corner route in the bottom, and you can imagine a guy like Gesicki get down there, get on the safety, and get over the top of that corner and give a chance to do some things in the pass game with him downfield. Now, when you get into some trip sets like Penn State does, they'll have some change-ups where now, again, linebacker out here, they like to collision the receiver, so they're not getting you a lot of free releases. He'll come into 3 deep, but again, just like in their base coverage, you're going to give you a flat to the outside if you're patient. We'll take a look at the video. You got to be patient. We're willing to make the long throws. They're going to force you to throw the ball outside and be stout against the run. Now, third down and long is a down Penn State's got to stay out of because that's when they will go to a dime package. And the thing that's interesting about their dime package is they'll actually bring in their 2 starting corners, move inside to take away Gesicki and take away your slot receiver. So you have to work the outside guys. The other thing is this guy, the linebacker, will press Barkley in coverage. So let's take a look at the video. And they'll blitz him, move him. He's very aggressive coming up so that if Barkley is involved in pass protection, he won't get the free releases and he'll release late. So that'll be a tough situation for Penn State they got to avoid.
What makes me laugh is I think we could have done this segment 15 years ago, and it would have been very, very similar. We would have looked a little better back then 15 years ago, but a lot of this would have been the same. So when you look at their offense, it's run first, run second, and maybe we'll pass third. I don't know. So what did you say?
Absolutely. And their run game is very basic. A lot of outside zone, a lot of inside zone. Here it is, the short side. And again, they're doing everything they can to displace you. They don't get outside per se of this defensive end, but when you look at where he makes this cut, it's actually outside of where he lines up. So we'll take a look at the video here. But you're going to see a big offensive line displacing people, creating holes, and Wadley is a really, really good back. Maybe the best back Penn State will play this year. I haven't looked at everybody yet. Now, they'll run the same thing the tight end side, and you're going to see, again, they're going to overstretch this whole thing. They're actually going to get the tight end and the tackle out on the guy in the slot. We'll take a look at that. But you see how aggressively they come off the field. You see they create seams, and now, again, you got Watley downfield, and he's very elusive downfield, even the pass game. He's a guy Penn State's going to have to contain. Now, when you get you committed to all this, they have a great play-action pass game. Here they're going to run their inside zone with the fullback going up to block the linebacker. He's actually going to come up here. This linebacker, the Penn State linebacker is going to have to come up and take him on, and now they slip him out. And just watch the fullback and the linebacker in the video. He comes up, that linebacker comes up to take him on, fullback slips him, and now there's nobody covering that fullback, and there's a 25, 30-yard play to a guy with a throw I can still make. Not a very long throw. That's not saying much. Now, you take a look, a lot of 2 tight end sets, a lot of different personnel groups. But again, showing the outside zone to this side, good fake, tailback coming out here to get you very, very concerned about stopping the run. You're going to see these guys come downhill. They come backside now here. And the tricky thing is this defensive end, he's worried about playing the run. Now that guy comes down and blocks him, shows the run. Everything's going to look like the run. Quarterback pulls it, and now he's out in the flat. And take a look here. You get a corner and a guy in the flat underneath. But again, that defensive end goes chasing. The quarterback gets a chance to get outside. Again, nice, easy pass. Again, a nice 6-5-yard throw that, again, I can still make, but it turns into a 25-yard play.
Yeah, and Nate Stanley, look, the guy's accurate. He's making the throws that they need him to make. So we'll see what happens with that.
And their whole offense is really going to put a lot of pressure on Penn State's linebackers because they've got to play run and they've got to play pass. And when you get the secondary involved now, that creates some down-the-field stuff. And with Vandenberg back and with the group of guys they have at tight end and wide out, they will be able to throw the ball effectively if they can get Penn State playing that run.
And I love the play designs. You got the square at the end of it. Everybody's got their assignment as the offensive lineman. That's old style. You don't see that too often with a lot of these plays.
No, and when I look at them, their offensive line's better than Pitt's. They've got a couple injuries, but they're still very big. And if they get into that kind of grinded-out game, going to give Penn State some real problems. And I can tell you, Kinnick is a tough place to play. The first year I was here, '95, we went out there and there was actually someone threw a pig's head on the field that they had brought in from their pig roast. And another year we had a guy's helmet get stolen right off the sideline. So it's a wild place, a lot of fun.
But at night too, so they'll have all day to think of some crazy stuff.
No question.
Our email inbox has been flooded. More Jay Paterno. More Jay Paterno. You get more Jay Paterno after this. He joins Trey and Steve on the set to talk about the team's depth when the Blue-White Tailgate returns.
Manuel Ike, Shane Simmons, Zach McPherson, Billy Fessler, all different players that played. Jay Paterno joins us here on the set. We're going to talk about depth here coming up. I mean, Jay, how important especially was it in early season games for you on the offensive side and then Joe Paterno to play a lot of players to get their feet wet?
Well, it depends on who you're playing.
Yeah, sure.
There were some years we played a lot of good teams. But, you know, one of the things about these games is you hope you get guys in because it gives them a feel of being in the game. Gives them a feel of what it's like, game speed, and under the lights, all that kind of stuff. So I think, you know, obviously they played a bunch of guys when you're up 56-0, 52-0. And that depth is invaluable because, you know, as we've seen the last couple of years, injuries do happen.
Yeah, you're not going to put them against Miami, Notre Dame, players like that, but there are other games along the way you can. Allison Luthman takes a closer look at the depth that Penn State's established.
Saturday's shutout against Georgia State added another win to the schedule, but also gave opportunity to players who don't see the field that often, or at all for that matter. Here's what James Franklin had to say.
You know, I'm pleased overall. There's a bunch of stats and numbers down here I can go over, but, you know, the most important thing is we came out, we played a complete game. We got a bunch of players in the game and gained valuable experience.
And here's a look at those players who did see the field for the first time versus Georgia State. This adds to a total of 23 Nittany Lions that made first-time appearances this season, including 3 true freshmen, 14 redshirt freshmen, 2 sophomores, and 4 juniors. Senior Brandon Smith says these opportunities are huge for team growth.
That's just great experience that our team's going to need going down the road, and the more guys we can get playing time, the better it is, the more opportunity we have for experience and get guys comfortable, be able to play winning football. So that's huge that we've been able to get so many guys in the game, and you know, some of them, you know, really loved it. A lot of guys, it was their first time ever playing a college football game, so really happy for those guys.
Both Franklin and Smith say that this season is giving a special opportunity for younger players to get more reps in to be prepared for the future.
Thank you so much, Allison. It also creates a healthy locker room, too, because you've got guys in there, Jay, that have competed in games, and they feel like they're really a part of it.
Well, it's a different feel when you play in the game and you go to that post-game tailgate with mom and dad, and they saw you, or the uncles and cousins, and everybody at home sees you in the game, and you show up on the stat sheet, even if it's 2 carries for 3 yards. You know, it gives you a different feel, and it creates better camaraderie in the locker room.
And Trey, what was it like for you guys when you saw other guys get in there? You've done your job for the day. You're finished. How much did it mean to you to see them get out there, guys that are your friends that are in the locker room with you?
Well, I mean, it was great. I mean, we were really, really rooting for these guys. I mean, the thing is, it's like there are more people that do not play during the game or in a game than there are the whole team. So you have 120 guys on the team. You have 40, 50 guys playing. Most of the guys don't even play in the game. Right. And to see those guys have an opportunity to play in a game and to be able to root them on, I thought it was awesome.
70 guys make a road trip in the Big Ten. Not all 70 are going to play.
Sure.
Just to show you, when it's even pared down to that number, they're not going to play. And for running back Andre Robinson, he really likes the depth that they're developing all the way across the team.
All the guys that have played before, we're really excited for all the guys that haven't gotten too much time to get in there and show what they can do. So, for example, Nick Urey got in at running back today for the first time he has ever gotten in a game before. And, the running back room couldn't have been more proud of him and happy for him to get in the game and get his one play.
Because what they see is they see Nick Urey out of Lake Lehman High School busting his tail every single day in practice, Jay, and now he gets a chance to play.
Well, it's valuable for those guys because it gives them something. I mean, we were playing in a bowl game. At the end of the game, we were ahead, and Matt Rule had played tight end and then played linebacker, and we weren't going to get the ball back. So I just said, you know how to block 40 pitch? Go in there. Yeah. And years later, he wrote me a letter saying how much that meant to him. And those are the kind of things. Those moments. That's part of what makes college football great.
It is, and that's what part of what you enjoy in a game like that. To me, that's the biggest takeaway. Because you did the expected. You won the game. Now you gave everybody else a chance to play. It's big.
Yeah. I mean, getting everybody a chance to play is different than everybody getting a trophy. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. Everyone doesn't get a trophy, but everyone should try to get in the game.
Just so everyone knows that we're still a couple segments away from the good, the bad, and the ugly. That was not it. Coming up, we'll take a look at Iowa as we preview the big game in a few moments here on Blue White Tailgate. Penn State is entering into its 25th season of Big Ten football, and no, Kirk Ferentz has not been there for all of them. Just so you know. Close. Hayden Fry was there for the beginning of it, but let's take a look at the Kirk Ferentz file, because you know what? Longevity in this business in one job is not easy. There will never be another Joe Paterno, 46 years, 61 overall at one place. But Kirk Ferentz has done a great job there. Every once in a while, you have people, well, got to move on, got to get rid of him. Yeah. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, seriously.
Well, he's just a very solid guy. I mean, he epitomizes, the culture in Iowa. He brings in the right guys. They're doing the right thing. They're very competitive. You never see Iowa scandals. You don't hear about guys get in trouble, and I think it comes from the head coach.
He's a Western Pennsylvania guy originally, and what I find interesting about his file is we was at Iowa. He was the offensive line coach for 8 years before he ended up getting the head coaching job, and that goes to speak to what his core is all about, right, is that line play. And so his team usually masks their head coach, and that's what Kirk Ferentz loves. And he's like the ultimate contract coach, right? I'm not saying it happens when his contract is expiring, but just when there's enough grumblings with, what's Kirk Ferentz done lately? It's like, one of those players that their contract's expired. Oh, we're just going to go ahead and run through the West. And they go undefeated, and then all of a sudden, hey, everybody's happy with Kirk Ferentz again.
My contract's up, and suddenly a 50-home run season appears. Great, just in time. All right, the quarterback Nate Stanley brought up earlier fits well with what they want to do offensively with Brian Ferentz now in his first year as the offensive coordinator.
The thing that's interesting is when you watch the game, they don't ask him to do things that he really can't do. I mean, they don't ask him to, tuck the ball and run. They don't ask him to. They have him drop back. They have him, it's a very, very concise passing game, and they don't ask too much from him.
Look, like I said before, this is when Iowa's at their best, when they have an efficient, good decision maker under center that can continue to do what Kirk Ferentz wants them to do, keep them on the field, keep the other defense or the other offense off the field, and eat up the time of possession, which is what the Hawkeyes have been able to do so far.
They have one real speed guy on offense, and that is Akram Wadley. They use him in the run game, the pass game. He's a real threat.
Yeah, he's a threat. I mean, he is the one guy that you really have to kind of focus on. I think that overall our team speed We're just faster, flat out faster than them. But he's a guy who can make people miss in space. And, we've got to really keep an eye on that guy.
And he hit a wheel route last week in his game. And so, we talk about Saquon Barkley being dangerous when you get those one-on-one matchups with linebackers. Same thing with Wadley. Of course, at the end of the run, I don't know if you guys saw, he made a couple of elongated strides. So they called the touchdown back, which was, heaven forbid, the kid got excited out there.
Behead him.
Heaven forbid
doing
he got
a little
excited.
something, and he gets himself in trouble. I don't know.
James Butler, grad transfer from Nevada. Really good player, good running back. Should have heard Saquon Barkley was waxing poetic about him 3 weeks ago, and then he got hurt, elbow. He's out. So the redshirt freshman, Taron Young, will come in. He'll back up. Ivory Kelly-Martin, the true freshman, will also play. Ike Butker's out at right tackle. Boone Myers has a shoulder. He'll play, but not as much as people think. So shutting down the Iowa running game for Brandon Smith, priority number 1.
They love to run the football, obviously. They've been known for that. A lot of 12 personnel, 21, 22, get their big tight ends in the game, get a fullback in there to run the ball. And, the stretch is probably their biggest play. And their running backs do a good job of seeing who gets out of their gap and hitting the hole.
They have 5 varieties of stretch plays. 5. I mean, they love the stretch. Oh, they love it. They have a wide range of them. Wide out, Nick Easley, J.C. Kidd, McCarron's back at wide receiver, Noah Fant at tight end. So if you got some guys there that can play, but it all starts with the run game. If you can make them one-dimensional, that's the key.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting just, watching Brandon and the stat that came up on the screen that we allowed 30 yards rushing to Iowa last year in last year's game. I mean, you have to go back a long time where you held an Iowa team to only 30 yards rushing time.
That is impressive for sure. We're going to find out a lot about the run stuffers up front, how effective the defensive rotation is. And you mentioned Nick Easley. He was kind of like their Jawan Johnson or their spring practice. He was the star of spring practice. He came in from Iowa Western. So only 16 catches for 162 yards so far, but that could be a name to look out for Saturday.
No question. Then defensively, obviously, they're only giving up 97 yards rushing a game. That's big for them. Parker Hesse, 40, really good off the edge. Good, solid player, makes plays for them. But it really comes down to the linebackers, and James Franklin is very impressed with that threesome.
I think Josie Jewell, there's no doubt that he's the leader and the bell cow of their defense. Very instinctive player, very physical player. Very productive player over his career there. I don't think there's any doubt about it. That, he makes their defense go from a leadership and from a playmaking perspective.
Bo Bauer, the other linebacker on the outside, really solid. Ben Neiman, son of a coach. You can see he plays that way. In fact, his uncle's the offensive coordinator at Northern Illinois, so they're feeling pretty good this week after the Nebraska game. But those 3 linebackers are the key to everything they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the most solid unit they have on their team is their linebackers. Again, it's going to be interesting to see with me to watch is that how are they going to defend Mike Gesicki? How are they going to defend the wideouts? And you got Saquon Barkley. You get him in space. I mean, I think they're going to have a long afternoon, Todd.
They had better tackle well.
Yep.
They had better tackle well because Penn State has a lot of guys that can make you miss, and they make the first guy miss. Then they have a lot of speed to build up a lot of big chunk plays.
Yeah, normally tackling improves right around now. It's the 4th game of the season because the games actually are where you get your tackling in.
Yeah.
Coming up, the good, the bad, the ugly, as we continue after this.
Take a look at the UI Iowa Step Family Children's Hospital, and let's give a big Hawkeye wave to all the kids watching the game.
There are a lot of great traditions, by the way, in college football. Whether it happens to be the drum major doing the flip at Beaver Stadium, the floating lion, to dotting the I at Ohio State. They started a new one this year at the University of Iowa. The Children's Hospital at the University of Iowa, which is across the street from the football stadium, is world-renowned. They put a 14-story, $300 million addition straight up where the top 3 floors overlook the stadium. At the end of the first quarter, everyone turns to the hospital where the children and their families are watching. They wave to them. It's one of the nicest things.
That's really cool.
It's a great, great tradition. I'm really looking forward to that. Time now for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not every week do we go with typecasting. Trey gets the good.
Good this week. I've got two. One, Penn State football in the discussion, top 5 in the country. Great to see us back where we belong. Also, my second number 2 is Operation Our Town. It's run by a family, the Fiore family in Altoona. I played in their golf tournament yesterday. They do a wonderful job, trying to get the community involved, private practice, private business, trying to clean up the community as far as drugs are concerned.
That's great, Trey. That really is. Time for the bad. For me, the bad, replay officials. Taking, in all seriousness, taking too much time in games and sometimes on irrelevant plays. You have to have a feel for the game. And I'll give you an example. There have been 2 of them. One was the Barkley touchdown, not the one where he stepped out. His touchdown where he scored from, 30 yards out. They replayed it. He's a yard in bounds. Why are you replaying it? And then taking 3 minutes before telling everybody it's good, right? Georgia State, ball hits the ground. Big Ten Network has a great angle, first angle, shows it, bouncing off the ground. 3 minutes. What are we doing? What are we waiting for? Don't complain how long the games are when you're one of the reasons the games are longer. Todd.
Passionate about that subject. The ugly. I was going to go with the SEC for you, Trey, as Mississippi State hammered LSU, and there's nobody good except Bama. But I can't help but once again pick on the Pitt secondary. They can't wait for Mason Rudolph to graduate. They could have ran up 70 points on that pass defense, and they had to offer their own fans a free beverage to keep them in their seats until the end. And half of them stayed and slept through the second half. It was ugly.
Well, that defines it. All right, now let's get to our picks. And believe it or not, we are so good at this segment that the great people at #1 Cycle Center say, we'll sponsor that. And you want to know why? Because not everybody can pick Notre Dame, Michigan State the way Trey can.
Notre Dame at Michigan State. Sparty is going to really take it to Notre Dame, in my opinion. They're underdogs at home. I don't understand why. Brian Kelly, I just can't wait to see that stupid puss on his face when he starts whining after the game in the press conference. He's almost like Nick Saban. It's actually kind of comical.
Washington, Colorado.
I gotta follow that.
Rematch of the Pac-12 championship game, Todd.
Well, look, the Huskies are almost forgotten in the Pac-12 race, right? Because USC's getting all the love. But this is a pretty quality team. Buffaloes are tough at home. I'm going to go with the Huskies in a close one.
All right, Jay. Mississippi State clobbered LSU last week. They got Georgia. What do you think?
Last week, Mississippi State physically dominated a very talented LSU football team. They run the ball effectively. They play good defense. Run game and defense travels well. I like Mississippi State to beat Georgia between the hedges in Athens on Saturday in what will be a big statement win for Mississippi State.
Well, Jay, I've got 16th ranked TCU and number 6 Oklahoma State. TCU, normally Gary Patterson, really good defense. They're going to have to be great defensively against this team in that passing attack of Mason Rudolph that Todd mentioned earlier during his ugly segment about Pitt football. Why is Pitt get picked on here? All right, let's get to all right, our keys to the game. Todd, you get to go first.
Pass protection. I think if Penn State can give Trace McSorley enough pass protection, he can slice up the Iowa secondary enough to get over those 30 points, which should be enough to win the game.
Play with the lead in this game. Iowa wants to play with it. If they do, they play keep away. If Penn State plays with the lead, especially 2 scores, they force Iowa to throw. They can't win that way.
I think third down conversions are going to be the key to this game. I think that we've got to prevent them from running out the clock and keeping the ball away from our offense. And I think the third down conversion is going to be the key to this game.
Yeah, on both sides,
yes.
Right? Penn State's ability to keep it and then get them off the field.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a 7:30 kickoff coming up on Saturday night. It's going to be almost 90 degrees at kickoff time on Saturday night at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City. For Jay, Todd, Trey, I'm Steve. Thanks for joining us on the Blue White Tailgate Show.